Well, for more, joining us from Washington is the Vice President of the Council of the Americas, Eric Farnsworth. And Eric, let me ask you, if this outspoken leftist Andrés Obrador becomes the next president of Mexico, what are going to be some of the consequences, both internally and especially its relationship with the United States?
Well, Mexico and Mexicans more particularly are looking for change right now. They've been promised better economic growth. They've been promised a reduction in violence. They've been promised an attack on corruption. And so in the first instance, he's going to have to deliver on those very direct promises to the Mexican people. You hear different things from different people about how he will actually govern if indeed he's elected on Sunday. But clearly the idea of trying to redistribute wealth throughout the country, making sure that the southern part of Mexico has as much chance to develop economically as the northern part, making sure that some of the downtrodden population of Mexico has the opportunity to thrive economically. These are going to be some of his priorities, and so that's going to perhaps impact how the next president will try to manage the economy. And so based on that, I think business people and investors will have to take a look at specifically what program the president decides to pursue.
Eric, of course, the election on Sunday comes as the controversy on the U.S.-Mexico border over family separations, due process. That debate is still continuing. To what extent is this playing a part in the elections on Sunday, if at all?
You know, it's really interesting. I think most Mexicans, frankly, reject the approach that the United States is pursuing right now on the border, and therefore it hasn't been a differentiator in the elections. All of the Mexican candidates for president have basically taken the same position, that they reject the Washington's approach. Having said that, the next president is going to have to take a stronger view to protect Mexican interests at the border, and in particular Mexican migrants on the other side of the border, in other words, in the United States. That is going to continue to be a very emotional issue. It's going to become even perhaps more intensive to the extent that the issues continue forward without immediate resolution, and therefore it's going to become more politically challenging on both sides. So to the extent that the border issues remain controversial, and they likely will for the foreseeable future, this is going to be a complicator between the United States and Mexico in terms of the bilateral relationship going forward. Look, we're neighbors whether we want to be or not, and so we can choose to make the border between us something that connects us or something, frankly, that divides us, and I think it's up to both people to try to figure that one out.
Eric, this election is coming as a lot of other several other Latin American nations have actually turned more from the left to the right. And now we have this Obrador coming in. Is it possible he'll emerge as a sort of the new leader of what we think of more progressive politics that have traditionally characterized Latin America?
Well, that's a possibility. That's one interpretation, sure. In fact, Mexico was not touched by the populist wave that happened at the turn of the century along much of the rest of Latin America. And as you accurately indicate, the most recent election cycles, whether it's been in Chile or Argentina or just last week in Colombia or elsewhere, have brought to power candidates who are more center-right, and have rejected the populist approach. Mexico really wasn't touched by those issues before, as I say, so this is perhaps an opportunity for Mexicans to look in the mirror and see if that's the direction that they want to go. But I would be wary about suggesting that this is some sort of new vanguard of a new movement across Latin America. I think those countries that have had an experience with populism fairly recently recognize the damage that it can do, and are looking to try to have a different approach.
Okay, Eric Farnsworth, thank you so much for joining us on The Rundown. We'll be right back.